Hello, people of the internet. This is Kaiji Noir. Here with me once again is Pete.
Hey guys.
And this time around, we are joined by another one of my old friends, Bambi.
Hey, everybody.
And we just finished watching The Hangover Part 3, the latest in the popular Hangover series. And we decided to, get together and have the three of us share our thoughts with you guys. So the movie begins with Chow, a character from the last two Hangover films, escaping prison. We then cut to Phil, Stu, and Doug, who are unhappy with how Alan has been living his reckless life. They decide to take Alan to a mental home. It's not really explained that well.
It's a rehab. They go to take him to rehab.
And along the way, they're stopped by a drug lord by the name of Marshall, played by John Goodman. And he tells the gang that if they don't retrieve the gold stolen by Chow, then their friend Doug would be killed. So now Phil, Stu, and Alan now go on another crazy adventure in search of Chow so that they can find his stolen gold and save their friend Doug.
Again.
Yes, again.
Yeah.
If there's one thing that bothered me about the last two Hangover films is that Doug never gets to be part of the adventure.
He never gets a role. Absolutely not.
Well, in a way, he kind of does. He just happens to be the damsel in distress.
Or a MacGuffin in this case, It's just he's
just a plot device, pretty
exactly.
much.
He's a walking, talking plot device.
Exactly. And it's funny. It's funny because, they really have the chance to take someone else, Let's give Doug the spotlight. But no, of course not. They want to continue with the three main characters, the wolf pack.
Well,
Right.
if you think about it, at least in this instance, it's not poor Doug. I mean, at least he's living in style instead of, like, in the first movie.
Sure, living in style with a gun to your pointed at his head.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not, like, potato sacked all the time or whatever.
Would you guys like to share your briefly share your thoughts on the first two Hangover films?
Yeah. I think the first Hangover was pretty well done. It was something that was really different, uniquely different. I don't think you see too much of that. And it had good comedy, not too raunchy. And that's something I really enjoyed about the first one. Again, really standout characters. Ed Helms, for some reason, he's an actor I really like. Zach Galifianakis, he kind of always plays the same role, kind of a goofy guy. Mm-hmm. But still in this role, he was good. As for Bradley Cooper, I think he's a badass personally. Just the way he presents himself, kind of a jerk off at the same time. As for the second movie, it's like everyone said, it's a rehash. It's the same damn thing in another area with a lot more raunchy humor.
And more cultural diversities. But my opinion on the first one was it was by far the best one out of the trilogy. The comedy in it was, I don't know, I thought it was pretty original. I mean, for our generation, it's not super, classy or whatever, but it had its own personality towards it. And the second one, I'm going to have to agree with you there, Pete. That's all I can say is rehash.
I agree with you guys on both accounts. I absolutely loved The Hangover. I felt like it was a modern day classic, along up there with Animal House, National Lampoon's Vacation, Revenge of the Nerds, Monty Python and the Holy Grail,
Oh, that's a classic.
Naked Gun, Hangover.
There you go. It was a really well played movie and very well for the time it came out.
Right, and it definitely put Bradley Cooper on the map, as well as Zach Galifianakis. I mean, after that movie, he started appearing in a whole bunch of other movies.
Date movie. No, not date movie. What was it that he was in with Robert Downey Jr.?
Road
Due Date.
Trip? Oh,
Due
Due
Date.
Date, yeah.
Yeah. In that movie, he plays pretty much the same exact role as Alan.
Yeah. And Dinner for Schmucks, he was in that movie too, and he was in The Campaign with
I haven't seen
I
either
remember
of
that
those.
one.
with Will Ferrell, I believe.
Yeah.
I haven't seen either of those.
And as for the second movie, I feel like it was completely unnecessary. I feel like The Hangover was a movie that should have stood on its own.
Standalone movie.
Right. It did not need any further expansions. and the whole movie felt like like a beat for beat regurgitation of the first movie. I mean, I was appalled when I saw that movie. I mean, even though I watched it on TV, I still felt ripped off.
And I agree with you on that sense. Again, literally the only thing they did with that movie
Was the setting.
was the setting and the raunchiness. They brought in a lot of sexual humor, and they tried making most of their jokes off that sexual humor. And while sexual jokes can be funny, if you base the whole movie off of it, it's not always too great, especially really kind of disgusting sexual humor.
Right. So now we have The Hangover Part 3, and luckily this time around it actually does something different. In fact, I think you can easily watch this movie without having seen the second movie. I mean, they make maybe like one or two references to it, but other than that, it's a continuation of the events from the first movie.
This is if there had to be a sequel, this is the number 2 that it should have been.
I personally think that the reason why they had the second one is to show like Stu's growth. What I mean by that is like his new marriage, like the start of his new marriage and everything.
Now that's the thing I did not like with the second movie, because I thought they were already hinting at a relationship between him and that one girl from the first
escort.
movie. Yeah, the escort, who is brought back as a cameo in this movie. So, but as for the second movie, it just completely like ignores stuff that was brought up, hinted at in the first movie, in order to repeat certain plot elements.
If anything, I think in the second movie they tried making Stu grow up. However, in this third movie, he's still the same old character, same old Stu.
Right. I don't really think any of these characters actually change other than Alan.
Right.
Although I would have to say Alan changed for the worse, because in my opinion, in the first movie, Alan, he was charmingly stupid. In the second movie, he was dangerously stupid. And I feel like in the third movie, he's annoyingly stupid. I mean, after 3 movies, I just can't stand Alan anymore.
And again, the thing is, that's the same. In most of the movie season, that's the same role he plays: the doofus, the dumbass. The guy that doesn't really understand.
This is where I'm gonna have to disagree. Alan is actually my favorite character in it.
Really?
Yeah, I personally think that if they didn't have Alan's character in it, there actually wouldn't even be a trilogy. If you think about it, he's the one that gets him in every single situation.
But that's why we say we don't feel that there should be a trilogy. It should have just been one film on its own.
No, I understand
Yeah.
that.
And another thing element that was from the first movie that they keep bringing back is the character of Leslie Chow, played by Ken Jeong. This time around, he's brought up as the main villain, as opposed to a wacky character that comes in for, let's say, 10 or 20 minutes for the movie. What do you guys thought of his character in all 3 films?
Personally, I've stated this before, but I think in the original he was just there for a little laugh, and I think he got a lot of support. People loved him, and for that they brought him back in the second one. And I'm pretty sure he was one of the funnier characters. So of course they had to bring him back as a full-fledged main character for the third one. And while I think he's funny, I'm just not. I'm kind of over him too. Same way with what was his name?
Zach Galifianakis?
Yeah, with his character, I'm kind of over Chow basically.
Mm-hmm.
I liked his character. He was the quirky. He was the counterbalance of quirkiness with Alan. Not the counterbalance. What's the word I'm looking for? Where like he's the exact same weight. He's the interracial clone of Alan, and I like how they brought him in as the I'm gonna quote this, main villain. Even though he was the main villain, there was still inner ties between Alan's character and him that actually brought the story to a more personal level between the two.
I do have to agree with you there. They definitely played up the friendship that Alan and Chow had in the last 2 movies. And I do have to say, like, the scenes that they had together, especially near the very end, were very emotional, and I thought it did work. But as for the character of Chow himself, Uh, um, Again, going with the whole idea that The Hangover should have been just one movie, because Chow, he was a really funny character when he was first introduced. I mean, his whole shtick about being like this with gangster mentality, but with a gangster lingo with a thick Asian accent. That was, I hope it's not being. I still hope it's not. It doesn't sound racist, but it was kind of funny.
It was funny.
And then he was brought back in the second movie, and I thought he did pretty well for what time he was there.
He's actually in his country this time.
However, by Transformers 3, I was already sick of him. So when he was here again, he does the same old stuff. Nothing new.
He was in Transformers 3?
Yeah, he was in Transformers 3 as a cameo. He was Deep Wang. That was the name of his character. I'm dead serious.
Oh, that's
Was he just like a 10-second character or so?
Yeah, he was in there for maybe 5 minutes. He's there to share Sam some important Decepticon information before he's killed by Laserbeak.
And that's something that I realize about the actor himself, Ken Jeong. Whenever he's in a movie, he plays very minor roles, or he plays a very minor short role into the movie.
He was recently in Pain and Gain.
Yeah, he's never been a big central character. And again, like you said, he's enjoyable in the first one. It's a little more enjoyable in the second, if not the same. But in the third one, the shtick is old. It's recycled. It's just show me something new.
I would have liked to see a little more character build on him.
Yeah, I guess I would sort of. Although, I mean, I like the idea of them giving him a larger role in this movie. Although I did not really feel like they really expanded that much on his character.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Especially considering that he's the main villain in this one.
Now, speaking of villains, how'd you feel about the other antagonist in the movie?
Marshall?
Yes, Marshall.
Oh, I definitely loved Marshall. I mean, he's not a very deep character, but he is played by John Goodman, and I love that actor.
Personally, I have to say, I think that's part of the reason why I enjoyed him, because he's played by John Goodman. That's part of the major reason why I liked him. He is kind of loosely just tossed in there. They try patching the stories up and then adding him in there. I mean, there are little mentions of him, but I don't know if he was actually meant to, or planned from the very start to be an antagonist in the third movie.
Oh no, I highly doubt that. I mean, it's just, if you remember from the first movie, there's this one character dubbed Black Doug, who mentions that when he realizes that he gave Alan the wrong type of drugs, he says, "Oh man, Marshall is gonna kill me," and so they decided to take that one name Marshall and turn that into a full-on character.
A full-on character that sadly isn't developed as much as some people would like to see.
Yeah, I liked how he was straight to the point. I mean, it just made sense that they chose John Goodman. They chose a really good actor for a gangster who's just straight up the point. Well, I wouldn't say gangster.
Drug lord?
Yeah, drug lord would be more the appropriate term for that. But I mean, he was just, this is what's going down. This is what's going to happen. Do this or else. And it was just straight to the point, and he delivered. He was a really good character.
What would you guys say about the other two, the remaining two characters, Phil and Stu?
Personally, I like Ed Helms. I like Bradley Cooper. Unfortunately, I don't think they really had much to do in this movie other than being, the help. I think this movie more than anything focused on Alan's character and again Leslie Chow's character. I don't know. I feel like Stu and Phil were just along for the ride. A lot of what was it? Phil. A lot of Phil's character in the previous movies, he was more of a jerk. He'd be more of like that guy, I don't know. I feel like they kind of dropped that character from Phil.
Well, I mean, it does take place 2 years after the second one, so I'm pretty sure that within that 2 years, he's realized, that's his character growth, that's his change, his character change. He's not that same old jerk. He's not that same old stuck-up guy. Because if you remember in the first movie, he was pretty much saying, "Don't get married," blah blah. But he was all for it on Stu's, and he was all for it for Alan's.
Interesting. I did enjoy them for the most part, but I feel like at this point they're just treading water as they're just going through the same routine. There's not really a whole lot of change. There's not a lot of character progression. I mean, yes, they've had their chance at changing to and becoming better people in the previous movies, but again, if you're not going to be expanding the story, why even bother with a sequel? I mean, the only character that really goes through any sort of change is Alan. However, I've already stated that I really did not like Alan in this movie.
Not even towards the end of the movie.
Now, I will give you that. I did enjoy the ending, the whole third act of this movie. But before we go into the ending of the ending of the movie, this is by all intents and purposes a comedy, which mean in order for a comedy to be successful, it has to be funny. So how did the movie work for you guys?
The comedy, it was hit and miss for me personally. There's times where like the theater would erupt in laughter, and I would be laughing. I'd just be looking around like, yeah, that happened. But there was times where it would shine, but mostly the jokes were getting stale, getting just nothing new really. And I feel like the first movie had a lot more more interesting jokes or more quirky things. But that's because again, this is their third adventure. We've been through so much with them. That's just my take on that.
I have to give it my full honesty here. About 90% of the time, I was busting a gut.
Yeah.
Yeah, along with the crowd, but like not 100% of the time that the crowd was laughing.
Okay.
There were some scenes in there that were just like, what's going on? Yeah, there was some like 100% of the time the crowd was laughing. I was like 90%. So.
So it seemed like you were enjoying the film.
Oh yeah, I was I was having a blast. I was just enjoyed that you guys even called me and was like, hey, to be honest.
As for you, what did you think of the humor in this movie?
I was really disappointed with this movie. I mean, I'm sorry, Bambi, but I just did not find this movie funny. Like Pete, it was just it was like 21 and over all over again, where everyone was laughing. And I was just sitting there saying, "What's so funny?" I mean, okay, so
What am I even doing here?
yeah, what is my life? To quote Eagle Raptor.
But unfortunately, I feel like we both went into this kind of knowing what we were going into.
Not really. I mean, I was kind of hoping that this would be the saving grace of the series.
They did have about 90% of the funny moments in the trailer. I'll be honest.
I don't think
I'm
the
not
trailer made
sure.
me laugh that much either.
I mean, I was kind of
Well, I mean,
intrigued by the. I was intrigued by the story, but I didn't see anything funny other than, I guess, the giraffe because it was so outrageously morbid.
If anything, I think this movie tries to take itself more seriously.
Yeah, but then at the same time, it's still trying to rely on its old tricks.
True. I think that the sobriety in it was a little more. It was a little more extreme than what I was actually thinking it was going to be. When I was thinking, Hangover, I'm thinking, here comes Alan. He's going to drug them up again somehow. Whether it's the marshmallows or it's the
Alcohol.
Yeah, the roofies. But I was thinking I wasn't ready for the twist. For the twist and
For the dramatic third act.
yeah, I wasn't ready for the sobriety.
Because
But there is the hangover. There is a hangover twist in there.
well, if there was anything I actually liked about this movie, it would be the whole third act when they actually went back to Las Vegas, because they did advertise they did show this in the trailers. And when I saw that, I was like, "Oh man, seriously, you're going to go back to Las Vegas? Have you really run out of ideas?" But it actually paid off. I thought that the whole climax was very engaging, very dramatic. You kind of like sitting on the edge of your seat, sort of act all over the top action, and it led to a very emotional conclusion, in my opinion.
I just want to add on to that. I agree. The third act was definitely the strongest part of the movie, and there are some scenes in that area where the comedy starts to pick up a little bit or a tad bit.
Yeah.
It gets a little funnier where it starts to work, and that's usually where I found myself enjoying the movie the most.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with all you guys. I like how they actually brought Las Vegas back into the story and how they actually ended up back there. And like, not to give too much, but I like it's not just like let's go back to Vegas. Woo!
Because like the trailers were kind of promoting, were kind of giving you the impression that the whole movie was going to take place in Vegas.
Yeah, but at the same time, they seemed very depressed about it. You know? Like the trailers I saw. It seemed like it was a darker movie of the three anyway. But I thought I was still gonna enjoy it.
So now that we've really gone over everything, shall we move on to final thoughts?
Sure.
Yeah.
Pete?
Final thoughts. Is it a movie worth going to see to the movies? I don't know. I personally don't think so. I think this is a movie you find one day on TV and you watch it. Unless you're really into the whole trilogy, this isn't a movie I would want to see on the big screen again. That's just my personal thought. As for a rating, if I really had to rate this movie, I'd give it a 2 out of 5. It's somewhat of a fun adventure, but it's old. The comedy doesn't always work, and it shouldn't have even been made.
I don't know. I thought it was decent. I don't think it's big screen worthy. Maybe if you have one of those free codes at Redbox, that way you can watch it for free. But I mean, big screen wise, maybe if you were going on a really cheap date and she had really horrible humor, maybe.
Oh God.
Or if you just really wanted to disappoint her for some whatever reason.
You must really hate women.
I need to find a way.
I'm not saying mean, but yeah, like if you need a reason to get out of a relationship, I guess an escape route, this would be with that movie. I'm gonna have to agree with Pete. Probably, I'll give it a bump, probably a 2.5 if that's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2.5 out of 5.
I mean, I do not use 0.5s whenever I rate a movie. However, you guys are free to do so. I mean, heck, you can even go a 10-star rating. You know,
I wouldn't give it. I wouldn't give that a rating.
Yeah.
I mean, they would have to make a whole bunch of changes.
I kind of had high hopes for this movie. I mean, I was figured that after the dreadfulness of the second movie that they would actually put effort into this one after listening to the criticisms. However, I was pretty disappointed with this movie. It felt like 80% of the humor was not very funny to me. I know that comedy is very subjective, and what I may find funny, others may not. What they find funny, I may not find funny. However, I feel like if you're into like good comedy, and you like the movies that I mentioned earlier in the review, timeless classics like National Lampoon's Vacation or Monty Python and the Holy Grail,
Classic.
or even the first Hangover, then this is not the movie for you. Other than the third act with the engaging climax and conclusion, I would say that the rest of the movie was almost a bore for me. So with that, I will give it a 2 out of 5. So, those are our thoughts on The Hangover Part 3. We hope you have enjoyed this review as well as our newest edition, Bambi. And thank you guys for joining me once again. So until next time, everybody, take care.
Hasta la vista.
Peace.